Hello, good to see you again. Welcome to Block 5, Fraction, Decimal, and Percentage Equivalence. Lesson 10. I'll share my screen. So, in your previous lesson, you learned how to use and interpret pie charts. In today's lesson, you're going to learn how to represent any fraction as a diagram. Before I start, I would like to ask you for a huge favor. A huge number of people benefit from these videos, but one way they can contribute to helping spread the word and to um, support us in our mission to provide free maths education to children around the world who cannot afford extra tuition is by liking the videos, sharing the videos with those you think can benefit from the videos, subscribe to the channel, and by doing that, you can help spread the word. Thank you. Before we start, I would like you to answer these retrieval practice questions to help you remember the things you learned from your previous lesson. Pause the video and answer the questions in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. So here we'll ask what fraction of the shaded. We can see that we have 1, 2, 3. 3 parts are shaded out of 10 equal parts. So we say 3/10. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 triangles, but out of those 7 triangles, 4 are shaded. So we say 4/7. Question 2, you were asked, shade half of the square in 3 different ways. Well, if we're to shade the square, half of the square in 3 different ways, we can do it first like that. We can also do it diagonally. So this is called a line segment. Take note of some of the names I use when I teach, because you're going to come across these in year 8, in year 9, and in year 10 lessons. And then we can also do it like this. All right. So we know these are quarters. We have split the square into 4 equal parts, and we have shaded 2 different parts after those 4 equal parts. So 2 quarters make a half. But there are many more ways in which we can do this. Let's do some new learning. How much of this rectangle is shaded? What do you think? Well, I know you're very bright. You've said 3/4. So 3/4 is shaded. The rectangle is divided into 4 equal parts, and 3 of those 4 parts are shaded. So 3 out of 4 is shaded. So 3/4. How many other ways could we have shaded 3/4 in the diagram? Well, there are different ways we can do this, but just watch. We can do this. That's 3/4. We can also do this. We can also do that. And what about this one? Would you say this is 3/4? Have a think. Of course not. They are not equal parts, so we cannot say 3/4 is shaded. What about this one? Well, think about it. We have these parts, they are all in equal parts. The rectangle is split into 4 equal parts. We have here and here as 2 parts shaded, but here we have half. What if we take this one over? Can you see that? So we actually have 3/4 shaded. Okay. What about this? Well, notice that we have this rectangle split divided into 4 equal parts, and each of these 4 equal parts are also divided into 4 equal parts, of which 3/4 are shaded. So actually, we can say his 3/4 shaded. Now, take note that we do not only have two-dimensional shapes. So two-dimensional shapes mean shapes that we have been looking at that have length and width. Length and width. Sometimes we have shapes that are three-dimensional shapes. So shapes that have length, width, or some people will call it depth, and height. Okay. Now, we can also express this as fractions. If you were asked what fraction of the cubes are blue, of course you would say, oh, well, I can visualize the number of cubes that are here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 cubes, which is 5/12. Yeah, 5 cubes out of a total of 12 cubes. So we have 5/12. It's now time for you to practice what you've learned, for you to be able to represent. Remember, what we're learning is to represent any fraction as a diagram. Pause the video and answer questions 1 and 2 in 3 minutes. You can take longer, you can take shorter. It's up to you. Learn at your own pace and enjoy learning. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Question 1, you were asked, what fraction of the shape is shaded? Here we can clearly see that this shape is divided into 7 equal parts. 2 parts are shaded, so it's 2/7. Here we can see it's 3/5. Here we can see that the fraction of the shape that is shaded is 7/10. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 out of 10 parts, so 7/10. And then here is 3/4. What about this one? Pause the video and answer questions 3 and 4 in 2 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered question 3 and 4, here are the answers. You can mark your work and celebrate your success. Question 3 is 5/6. So what fraction of the cubes are yellow? So we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 cubes in total. So 5/6 are yellow. Here you're asked, one of these triangles has 1/3 shaded. Which one is it? Of course, it's this one. You can see they're in equal parts, so it is A. Now, you asked for B, you were asked, explain why one shape has 1/3 shaded and the other does not. Of course, one, the answer is one is not in equal parts, so we cannot say that 1/3 is shaded. They are not equal parts, yeah? Question 5. Here you're asked to shade the stated fractions of the squares. So how would you do this? Of course, pause the video and answer this in 1 minute. You should be able to do it in 1 minute. You can take shorter time, you can take a longer time. Assuming you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Mark your work and celebrate your success. Really well done for keeping up with the lesson. And here are the answers. So that's a half, that's a quarter, and that's 1/8. Okay, so here we split the square into 8 equal parts and then we shade one part. All right, let's do some new learning. Well done for practicing what you learned in the first part of the lesson. Now, if we divide the rectangle into quarters so that each part is the same shape, what would we do? And then here, B, you were asked, some of the parts become different shapes. Now, what I want you to take note of, I want you to take note of this, okay, these parts, okay? So this is a 1 centimeter square box. Why? This is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. So 1 times 1 is 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it means in this box, we have 8 centimeters squared in area. Yeah, 8 centimeters squared. So if we want to divide into quarters, we can do this. Okay. Okay. So if we have to divide this into quarters so that each part is the same shape, we can simply do this. All right. So you can see that this is 2/8. So 2 centimeters squared. So 2/8. So let's write this. Let's use this pen. I think this one is much better. Let's move this out of the way. All right. So this is 1. This is 1. So we have 8 altogether. So this is 2/8. And remember, 2/8 is the same thing as a quarter. So we have succeeded in splitting this into quarter, of which each is equal in size and is of the same shape. But what about this one? How do we do this? Let's erase this one. Just a minute. I think this pen works much better. Okay, how do we do this one? So for this one, we say, okay, we want the parts to have, to be quarters. So remember, we have 8, 8 centimeters squared altogether. So for we to have quarters, it means whatever shape we get has to be 2 centimeters squared, right? So we have succeeded in making this part 4 and this part 4. 4 centimeters squared and 4 centimeters squared. All right. What if we do this? Okay, that seems to work. But we do not have quarters yet because this is 2, this is 2, but we want some of the parts to be different shapes. So we could do this. All right. So you can see here that that's 1 centimeter squared. Half of that and half of that makes 1 centimeter squared plus this 1 centimeter squared, which is 2 centimeters squared, same with this. We could also do it like this. All right. So that's 2 centimeters squared. That's 2 centimeters squared because 1 plus a half and another half make 1 is 2 centimeters squared. And we could, guess what? Do this, right? So you see that is a half, that is a half, that makes 1 centimeter squared, and that is 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So even though it looks like a strange shape, we have actually answered the question in different ways. What about this? She says, let's move this out of the way so that I can see what I'm doing. So he says, we don't know what fraction is shaded because the parts aren't the same. Well, do you agree with Jack? Really? Well, not really, because remember, take note that this shape is on a squared centimeter grid. So each of these square is 1 centimeter. So if you think carefully, you'll see, if you look carefully, you'll see that that's 1, that's another 1, and that's 3. Yeah, that's 1, 1, and 1. That's 3 as well. So they are actually of the same area. They have the same area. They are of the same size. So we actually know what fraction is shaded. All right. So we can say, well, we have 2/3 of the shape is shaded. But you may be wondering, how did we come up with 2/3? Well, let's explore this a little bit more. Okay. So we have, so let's use this one. So we have, this one is 1, 2, 3, and that's 1, 2, 3. So we have 6 out of 8. So we have 6. okay, out of an additional 3. So 1, 2, 3. So altogether, we have 9 squares. Okay, so we have 6 over 9. Well, could we simplify this? What do we really mean by simplifying? To simplify means we need to look for a number that we can use to divide the top number. I'm going to call it a special name, numerator. And the bottom number, I'm going to call it another special name, denominator. Take note of these words because we're going to be making use of them in future lessons. So 3, 6 and 9 are in the 3 times table. So we can use 3 to divide 6 and also 9. So if I use 3 to divide 6, that will be 2. And if I use 3 to divide 9, that will be 3. So 2/3 are shaded. Okay? All right. Let's move on. I don't want that. Let's all right. Okay. Let's erase this. All right. So that's 2/3 shaded. All right. 1/3 of the rectangle ABCD is shaded. Do you agree? What assumptions have we made to be able to say that a quarter, I mean to say, of the rectangle is shaded? Well, one assumption we could make is, okay, what if we assume that that is the midpoint halfway between A and C, and we put lines all through, okay? What if we now put lines? We say, okay, if this is the midpoint, that's not what I want. I want a pen. So if we say, well, this is the midpoint, and we put lines through like this, and we put line like this, okay? And we continue a line like this. Well, I haven't done it actually properly, but we can say, okay, that must be a quarter, because what we've done, we have successfully split this rectangle into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, out of that 8, we have shaded 2 out of the 8 parts. So 2/8. If we simplify it, remember 2 and 8 are in the 2 times table. So we can simplify this fraction. We can say, let's divide 2 by 2 because 2 is in the 2 times table, that's 1. And then let's divide 8 by 2, and that's 4. So a quarter is actually shaded. So the assumption we've made is that this is the midpoint, which means we should be able to split the rectangle into 8 equal parts, which means that we have shaded a quarter. Okay. All right. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we've done some learning. We've done quite a lot of learning in the second part of our lesson, where we need to make some assumptions to be able to represent a fraction as a shape, or we look at the shape and we um, find out what fraction the parts of the shape that have been shaded represent. I would like you to pause the video and answer question 6 in 3 minutes. Question 6 in 3 minutes. Assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. You can mark your work and celebrate your success. Really well done. Well done for working hard. Well done. High five to you. Okay. Now, here are the answers. Question 6A, you were asked, so Alex and Dexter are dividing rectangles into quarters. They can only join up dots. That's all they can do. So here, Alex says, I divided my shape into quarters and I made 4 identical shapes. How might Alex have divided her shape? So she could have done this, just joining dots. Okay. Remember, in the question, you were given this showing the dots. Yeah. So she could have done this. And then here, Dexter says, all 4 of my shapes are different, but they are still quarters. So how could he have done it? He could have done it like this, just joining dots. Now take note. Yeah. Just joining dots. You can see that's quarter. Now, if you think about what we learned in our previous lesson, if we draw a line here and here, you can see that that's 1 and that's another 2 halves. So that's a quarter. Here, if we draw a line like this, you see that's a quarter. You see if we put another line there, that's another quarter. So we have a quarter plus a quarter, half, and other 2 quarters, half and a half. So that's that makes it a quarter. Yeah. And then here, all right, different ways of doing this that you can answer the question, which says, which is to get quarters. Yeah. And question 7. So pause the video and answer question 7 in 2 minutes. So assuming you've paused the video and you've answered the questions, here are the answers. Let's discuss them. Okay, what fraction of the shapes are shaded? So question 7, all right? So the fraction of the shape that is shaded is 1/12, and then this 1/16. But why is that? Take note that you have a square there. You also have a square there. So if you keep splitting these parts into the number of squares there, you will notice that you will form 16 squares, of which 1/16 is shaded. So this is what I mean. So let's just do a little illustration. So if we do this, and we have that, okay, so we can do this. Okay, this one can give us about 2 squares. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then here we can have it into half. So each row has 4. Yeah, each row has 4 squares like that. So you see that we have a 4x4 square, which is 16, and we have just one part shaded. So it's 1/16. Okay. Let's rub that off really quick. And then the next one is 1/12. All right. So we have 6 squares, of which each of the square, one of them is split into a half. All right. So if we split every other square into a half, it means we have turned the 6 squares into 12 equal pieces. So one of that is shaded. So we have 1/12. Now, the assumptions we made is what I showed you here, which is what you're being asked. So you can discuss that with your partner or with anyone else you're learning with. Okay, well done. Well done for keeping up with our lesson. Question 8, you were asked, all of the sides of this shape are the same length. Divide the shape into fifths. Shade 3/4 of the shape. shade 10% of the shape, and then shade 0.375 of the shape. Well, I do hope you remember how to work out fifths. So to shade fifths, it means we just shade that bit. 10% will be this part here. Okay, 10% of the shape, because this splits the shape because we have fifths. By doing this, we split the shape, each of the square, into two parts. So 5 lots of 2 will be 10. If we shade one part, that's 1/10. Now remember, a tenth is 10%. 3/4 will mean splitting the shape into these parts. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now 3/4 will look like this. Now, do you remember when we did eighths? Okay, eighths. So 0.375 will be splitting the shape into quarters and then into eighths. Now, if we split it into eighths, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember? Eighths. Now, a quarter is 0.25. And half of a quarter, which is 1/8, which is what we've done here. Okay, so 1/8, each of these part is 1/8, this little part. So 1/8 is 0.125. So it means we need 3 lots of an eighth. So if you don't understand what I'm talking about, refer to our previous lesson where we discussed how to understand eighths. Okay, so this will be 3 lots of eighths. Yeah, 3 lots of 1/8. So 1, 2, 3. So, and that's what we'll get. That brings us to the end of our lesson. So what we've learned so far in this lesson is you have learned how to represent any fraction as a shape, or looking at a shape and to figure out what fraction the parts of the shape that is shaded is represented as. We have reviewed eighths, quarters, fifths. So if you do not understand this, I encourage you to go and review those lessons where we have learned how to understand eighths, quarters, and fifths, representing them as fractions, as percentages, and as decimals. Until next time, thank you for enjoying learning. See you, take care, and bye-bye.